Do divorcing parents really know best when considering the needs of their children? Is being a parent enough authority to decide what children should and shouldn't know, when to get the child's input? Or is a child a preferable resource to know what might be in his or her best interest before, during, and after the divorce process? Welcome to the Divorce Game. I'm your host, Pamela Nichols. Children of divorce are often caught in the competition of their parents' divorce. Children are the unwilling contestants who too often are the losers emotionally, socially, and financially. This show gives adults who were once children of divorce an opportunity to educate parents about the impact of their game and offer new rules so children can win. The name of today's episode is Parents Know Best Game. Here to describe this game and set new rules is my guest, Tara Eisenhard. Tara Eisenhard is a divorce coach with the new designation of Certified Divorce Specialist. Tara is the author of the book, The D Word, Divorce Through a Child's Eyes. She has contributed articles to Stepmom Magazine, Family Affairs, DivorcedMoms.com, Divorce Force, and all her writing has been featured by the Huffington Post. In addition to her business services, Tara is a volunteer mediator and conflict coach for her local community mediation center. Tara will share her experience and offer rules to parents to play a fair game that brings lasting positive memories for their children. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you're here as my guest.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
So the divorce game, our episode today is called Parents Know Best Game. Mm-hmm. So before we get into what that game is, tell me about how old you were when your parents divorced.
So the night that the big announcement happened, it was about 2 weeks before my 13th birthday. So I was officially 12, 13 by the time my parents separated.
Okay. And are you the only child?
No, I have a younger sister.
Okay.
And she is about 8.5 years younger than me.
Okay. So can you just tell us a little bit about, you called it the big announcement. Can you tell us a little bit about that announcement and then tell us what is the Parents Know Best game that your parents played?
Sure. So the announcement really wasn't so much of an announcement to me as it was between my parents. And what was happening was they were having this fight in the dining room of our family home, and my sister and I were in the living room, so we're in the next room over, and we could hear them. I have no idea what they were fighting about. And all of a sudden, my mom said, "Oh, get a lawyer, I can't talk to you anymore." And I kind of, stopped breathing for a second, and there was this silence, and then my parents just kind of went with it, and they started to talk about who was going to move out and what they were going to do next. And
in the same setting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So and my sister and I are like in the next room over, and she looks at me and she says, "What does that mean? What's going to happen?"
Yeah.
And I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I put my big sister hat on, and I said, "Oh, how they fight, they say things they don't mean. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it." And after that had independent conversations with each of my parents that night, where they both kind of said, "We're probably going to get divorced. We don't know what's going to happen, but when we know, you'll know."
Okay.
And that was it for like months. And so that was like the end of March, and it was June. My mom's taking me to go on vacation with my cousin, and we're on the way there, and she said that my dad was going to move out while I was gone. And that was the first, they made all the decisions.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I didn't have any information. So in my mind, I tried to work it out because I needed to know what was going to happen.
You needed some answers.
This was my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reasoned very well. I thought that, my dad made more money, so he should keep the house because I knew that there was a mortgage, and my mom would move out, but she wouldn't go far. There were some apartments up the street. She would take my sister. I would stay with my dad. I was closer to my dad, and we'd still be close. I could go visit, whatever I wanted. And I thought that was a pretty good plan, but nobody consulted me.
No one consulted you. Okay, so let me interrupt for a second and ask you, do you still feel something about that story you just told, like on an emotional level?
Yeah.
I'm asking you because I felt like my gut just you know, resonated with whatever is still there for you with that story. I feel it on an emotional level. So that's why I wanted to just see if that's still true for you, and obviously it is.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I want to just pick out for a second is, so in the absence of having information, you took it upon yourself to figure out what the plan would be for your parents. You had to have some answers for yourself, and waiting for them to tell you was not working for you.
Right. 'Cause I was in a panic. You can't do that. You can't throw a word like divorce out there and then just sort of like, oh, we're just in this holding period. No way. I needed answers.
Well, did you go to your parents and say, hey, let's hurry up with the decision here?
No,
why
I
not?
didn't. I think I was probably afraid.
Of what?
Of what they might say, what was going to happen, everything becoming too real. And so I just sort of figured things out on my own and trusted them to come to the right conclusion that I had come to.
Okay, so let's pick apart this game then. So the game as you see it was what? What was the game that they played and the parents know best?
So the assumption that they operated on was that they were the parents and they're the experts in the family, they're the adults in the room.
Sure.
They know what they should do. And I think what they were thinking was that they wanted things to be easy. They wanted to shield us from conflict, which they did very well. My parents had a fantastic divorce, aside from this aspect
I've never
of it.
heard fantastic before as a word used, but that's pretty cool.
I'm always very complimentary about the way that my parents got divorced because they did shield us from a lot of conflict, and their relationship got much better. They were able to co-parent very effectively. But in the process of that, of them becoming this team, they became this kind of united front, which is what all parents want to do, ideally. But they alienated us. And in particular, me. I mean, my sister was very young and really was not able to have a voice in the conversation, whereas I could have, and I really wanted to.
So your parents weren't competing with one another in this game. They were actually on the same team. So maybe you all were the competition, the competitors, and unknowingly.
Unknowingly.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the way that the line was drawn, was that, okay, we're the parents, we're the adults, we're going to make the decisions, and you're going to go along with what we say.
All right. So that didn't work for you.
No.
What would you have said to them if you had a voice in this game?
I would have wanted to express my desire to probably spend more time with my dad. The way that they decided it was that he was going to move out, and my sister and I would see him every other weekend.
Every other weekend, okay.
And I had been much closer to my dad than with my mom, so it was a little bit of an upside down scenario for me in that case. So I would have liked to have been able to maybe at least have the space to be listened to in that, even if what I wanted wasn't going to work out for whatever reasons. And there's a lot of factors that I'm sure my parents considered, but the fact that I was closed out of that and it was just kind of given to me that this is what we're going to do, I felt ostracized.
So just to be heard was important to you.
Yeah.
Not if they were going to go along with what you suggested or said or wanted. You wanted to be heard.
I wanted to be heard, yeah. And I'm sure I would have been upset not to get my way, because human nature, we always are. But to have that opportunity just to express myself and say, this is what I want, would have been, I think, really meaningful.
You wanted more time with your father. And what else would you have said?
That was probably the main thing. I might have had more to say at the time, which I think they probably could have shut me down to some degree, because I thought I knew all about the finances and things like that. But
at 12, 13?
yeah,
you're smart. You're a precocious child. Yeah.
But just how are things going to go? And also, the opportunity to just kind of express my feelings, my struggles with it. Yeah. The message that I took from that was that my parents they had their own thing and they were working on it, and I kind of needed to just take care of myself. And again, that's what I interpreted. Nobody said, hey, Tara, you're on your own.
Yeah.
That's just the message that I got.
Well, let's explore that then. The impact of this game on you emotionally, socially, and financially. What was that impact?
So on one hand, the impact was awesome because it made me very independent, which I've always been anyway. But it made me even more so. I'm an extremely independent person. I have this idea that I need to take care of myself, and in many ways that served me very well.
Okay.
You know, the flip side of that is that I often feel very alone.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
So you, wow, that's really very open to share that with us. I'm moved by that. So I just want to like be present for a moment with that impact of feeling very alone. So and there's a duality here, the duality of I'm very independent, but sometimes I feel very alone. But in a way that sounds like the same thing, independent and alone. So how does that play out? How does that play out in your current life?
And it's, you know, it plays out different ways in different scenarios, obviously. In my socially, just for instance, you know, I'm very independent. I can take care of myself. I can do my own thing. You know, I can entertain myself. It affects my relationships because I have this you know, voice in the back of my head that kind of says these people really don't like you. They really don't care what you think.
Wow, that is so real. It is.
Kind of pathetic.
I wouldn't say it's, but I'm not going to use the word
I need to go back to
pathetic.
therapy.
Well, all of us need therapy on some level, right?
Right.
All right. But what's interesting about your honesty and your vulnerability here, well, actually, I'm not going to even use the word vulnerability. I'm going to use the word that Dr. Brene Brown uses, which is wholehearted. Wholehearted.
I love her.
So I love her too. We love you. You're wholehearted about your experience. What's intriguing to me is I know a little bit about your background because we've worked together, you know, on some projects. You were married and then divorced. So was there a similar impact, the independent but alone, even within your marriage?
Yeah, I was very alone inside my marriage, and we were very different people. And I was also very independent, which was a lot of friction. And not that I regret that at all. But I have just kind of, as I've gotten older and I'm married again now, and my relationship with my second husband is much different. Whereas I have been able to kind of shift to more of an interdependent kind of relationship in my second marriage, as opposed to in my first marriage, where my ex and I just were very combative. He wanted a much more traditional life with his wife, and I was
independent.
I was not into that.
Yeah. So then what's the difference now? I mean, what made the difference from this independent Tara in the first marriage that's different in the second marriage in terms of an impact?
So a lot of time, a lot of education. I have, after my divorce, and I had a very good divorce from my ex-husband. We had a very cooperative,
so you've used,
divorce.
Wait, you've used the word, your parents had a fantastic divorce, and you are saying you had a good divorce. I love these terms.
Yep, I love divorce.
You're like, oh, and she loves divorce.
I love
like,
divorce.
She's totally elevating us here, people.
I love divorce. I love divorce. When it's done well, it can be a very good thing, very healthy. And so when I got divorced, that was when I started to go down this path. I realized that most people didn't have very good divorces.
Most people don't.
Right. And I was flabbergasted. I could not.
That surprised you?
It surprised me because my
Because of your
parents,
background. Sure.
my parents had a pretty good divorce.
Okay.
You know,
No, your parents had a fantastic
they
divorce.
did.
Okay,
They
that's
really
what she
did.
said.
They
Okay.
really did. They had a fantastic divorce. And I grew up thinking divorce was a good thing.
Okay.
Because so much about my life did improve as a result of the divorce when they weren't fighting under the same roof. And so when I started to go down the path to first answer the question, what is it about divorce that makes people crazy? And then I started to see, you know, all of the opportunities and the ways that we handle divorce. It went down this whole rabbit hole of psychology and communication. And through that understanding, I have been able to apply a lot more lessons to myself and my life and my relationships.
The word that comes up for me is self-development. You went through a lot of self-development to, you know, overcome some of the challenges and see yourself in a less independent but more interdependent self. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've come to the realization, we want to put people in boxes, especially in divorce. We want to be able to assign these labels of kind of good and bad.
Yeah.
And what I realized studying divorce is that, we're all just human beings having a very human experience, and we're messy and we're beautifully emotional, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to adapt that into my own existence.
Yeah, and you do coach. Okay, so as a divorce coach, you bring this philosophy into your coaching with your clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is self-development and self-reflection a part of what you do when you're coaching clients?
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So a lot of my work with my clients is focused on that kind of self-awareness, especially when people are going through divorce. Everybody wants to give you advice because everybody has a story, and we're all coming from our own backgrounds, our own filters. And so for somebody who's going through a divorce and they're getting advice left and right, I know I did, even though I had a good divorce, people told me this is what you need to do. It's really important to be able to hear your own voice, to be able to understand the feelings that you're having, to be able to sit with them and know what it means that you're having those feelings. All of those feelings point to needs within you. Yeah. And when you have that knowledge, you're so much more empowered to make better choices, more appropriate choices for yourself and your family.
I don't think that could be better expressed. There is a book called Emotional Intelligence. The book is called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by the author Travis Bradberry. And in this book, he points out that 67% of us are completely unaware of the emotions that we're experiencing, which means when you're not connected to what you're experiencing, you tend to make poor decisions about what's best for your life because you're unaware of the message your emotions have come to give you. So I think that is so important. Unfortunately, we look at divorce only from the lens of the legal side and the financial, because divorce is, assets and liabilities, spreadsheets.
Right.
But we don't consider the emotional piece, which has everything to do with the decisions we make.
Yeah. I always say divorce is a human process with a legal document attached to it.
Say that again?
Divorce is a human process with a legal document attached to it. The same thing as marriage. But when people get married, we pay attention to the human stuff. And oh, by the way, you have to file some paperwork at the courthouse.
Oh, so true.
When we do divorce, it's exactly
the opposite. Oh, my goodness. That's really a perspective. Okay. So as a divorce coach, how is it helping you in your own self-development and recovery, I'm going to call it, because I still felt that emotional energy and charge from your story earlier. How is that helping you?
So it's helping me in a couple different ways. First of all, it's helping me in my, my second marriage, which marriage is so much better when you're married to somebody you like.
Okay. Yeah, that really, marry somebody you like. Word to the wise. Yes. Okay.
And it's helping me in in my relationships, my friendships, obviously my professional development, professional relationships, and even my relationship and my hindsight with my parents. In everything that I've learned, a lot of times, especially children of divorce, we grow up and we want to kind of hold these grudges, and we want to sit on the therapist's couch and say, "Oh, my parents did this to me."
We want to blame.
Yeah. But again, we're all humans. We're all having this human experience, and I've become a much more compassionate person.
I was going to say a word similar to that because you have such a gentleness about this topic. It doesn't feel so heavy and harsh the way that you present it. And I guess because of your experience and the work you do, it matters. All right, so it's time now to give new rules to the Parents Know Best game. So what are your top 3 new rules that parents must abide by if the children are going to win or be hurt?
All right, so rule number 1.
Rule number 1.
Hold family meetings.
Ooh.
So this is important for a couple reasons. Number 1, it creates a space for everybody to talk. It presents a united front between mom and dad, if they're able, and showing that the whole family is still on the same team, that the family is evolving together. And it's not just an opportunity for the kids to talk, it's an opportunity for the parents to share maybe some of their own hardships as well. And to be able to say, I've considered that, here are some of the things that we're thinking about.
And I know that some of our viewers are thinking, well, my kids are really super young, so I really can't hold family meetings with them. So we're being specific that we're talking about age appropriateness.
Right, right. And age appropriateness for obviously, children who can't talk. But in that case, still it's good for kids to be able to see their parents cooperating in any way possible. Subject matter can change depending on age appropriateness, of course. You might be talking about, are you excited about your pink bedroom kind of thing? Or how are we going to spend Thanksgiving this year?
Yeah. Okay, so that's rule number 1.
Yep. Rule number 2.
Hold family meetings.
Yeah, hold family meetings. Okay. Rule number 2 is for parents to make sure that they're checking in with their kids and showing an interest in what's going on. So this was something that really happened with me, was I became a very private person. I became very private, very independent. I kind of took what was mine. I took my schoolwork. I took, everything that I was dealing with in my life. And I held on to it very closely, and I dealt with it. And I dealt with it very well. And because I dealt with it very well, my parents were kind of,
oh, she's good.
Hands off. Yeah. She's good. Right. So it's important for parents to just kind of check in. Yeah. And, just to ask, how much math homework did you have today? That kind of thing.
How are you feeling? How was school? Is there anything on your mind?
Yeah.
Which would mean that the parents need to be open about how they feel too, what's real for them, in order to have an authentic conversation with them.
Yeah, and that kind of bleeds into rule number 3, which is to check in individually. So we've got the family meetings, we've got
the group.
Yeah, that we've got the taking an interest, and then we've got the check in individually. So kids are going back and forth. They're spending time with mom, they're spending time with dad. It's important to check in and to create a rapport between mom and dad, or mom and child, and dad and child. And this is something that my parents did pretty well. I was able to form much better relationships with each of my parents individually. So this is a real opportunity for parents to be able to check in and, not just about divorce things, but, general life things as well. But to say things like, how did you sleep the first night in the new apartment?
Wait, I'm confused of how that's different from rule 2.
So rule 2 is a little bit more just taking an interest in the children's lives in general.
Okay.
How are your friends? How
so
school,
a parent with the children taking a general interest, but 3 is you and me, baby.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and a little bit more about forming a relationship, checking in. How are you doing? A little bit more of an emotional bond there.
And I hear also in that dates, like go out on a date with your daughter or your son or whatever. That would be kind of cool way of checking in and bonding.
Yeah.
All right, well, those are 3 great rules, and I hope that, our listening audience would take those into consideration. So let's now do the rapid fire. Are you ready to play a game with me? The rapid fire statement. So here's how it goes. Right. I'm going to make a statement. And then you're going to finish the statement. I'm going to start it. You're going to finish it, okay?
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
I think so.
All right. There are only 10, so you'll be good.
Oh, 10.
Yes. Okay. Now, one reason parents don't take time to ask their children about their feelings is because
parents have their own things that they're dealing with. They have a lot on their own plate.
My parents' divorce has made me better by
making me a more independent, self-sufficient person.
Some parents play games not because they are competitive, but because
they're scared.
Ooh. Whew. Ooh, that really touched me. Because I think that was my issue. Okay, anyway, we're in the rapid fire statements, Pam. Stay focused. Okay. Some parents do play games because they are competitive and
they want to win. They want to feel better about themselves.
All right. I, Tara Eisenhard, wrote the book, The D Word, to
inform parents of the perspective that they might be missing from their child.
My best advice to parents considering divorce is
to do it in the most productive way possible.
What divorcing parents fear but need not is
that their kids are going to be messed up because their parents are divorced.
That's a good answer. If I could tell my parents one hard truth, it would be
More of what we talked about here. That it was very hurtful that they left me out.
All right, this last one is a little different. So I'm going to say it and you're going to repeat after me, but then you're going to finish the sentence, okay? You ready?
I think so.
I'm going to say it, you say what I say,
Uh-huh.
okay? And then you finish
Okay.
when I leave off. Okay?
All right.
So I, Tara Eisenhard,
Tara Eisenhard,
am good enough.
am good enough. Well, that's really open.
Well, it's a rapid fire answer.
I'm just going to leave it at that. I am good enough.
I love that.
Let's bring Brene Brown back in.
Yes!
I am enough.
I am enough. That is fantastic. Oh my goodness. So, Tara, just look at the camera and give whatever advice, encouragement that you can to the listening audience, and then tell us how to reach you.
All right. So my advice and my kind of nugget of wisdom is that divorce is about evolution, not dissolution. As a culture, we have a very negative look on divorce, very negative outlook on divorce. People who are going through the divorce process feel very guilty and ashamed, and it doesn't need to be that way. It's about evolution, not dissolution of a family. And so I encourage parents to adopt this perspective, to include their children in this evolutionary process, and to realize and understand that no matter where people live, you'll still be a family, especially in the eyes of your children. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, my website is taraeisenhard.com. You can contact me through there.
Thank you so much for being my guest. You're just fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. All right. Thank you for watching The Divorce Game. Be sure to email me what you learned and what game you want to hear more about. You can email me at thedivorcegame@gmail.com. And again, to reach Tara Eisenhard, taraeisenhard.com. We'll see you next time.